The sun had barely crested over the dusty horizon of Abilene, Kansas, when Emma Clarke realized her borrowed dress no longer fit properly. And panic seized her chest like a vice as she fumbled through her late aunt's trunk for something, anything, that might hide what she could no longer deny. The year was 1876, and Emma had arrived in this cattle town 3 weeks prior, fleeing the whispers and judgment of her hometown in Missouri after the man who had promised her forever disappeared the moment she shared her news. At 22 years old, she found herself alone, frightened and increasingly desperate to conceal the life growing inside her. Her aunt's passing, tragic as it was, had provided an unexpected refuge, a small boarding house on the edge of town that now belonged to Emma, along with all its responsibilities and the possibility of a fresh start where nobody knew her shame. She pulled out a faded blue work dress, looser in the bodice and waist, and slipped it over her chemise. The mirror reflected a woman who looked haunted, dark circles under green eyes that had once sparkled with naive hope. Emma tied her chestnut hair back severely and wrapped a shawl around her shoulders despite the late spring warmth. The boarding house had 4 rooms to let, 3 currently occupied by ranch hands and 1 traveling merchant. She needed to keep them fed, keep the house running, and most importantly, keep her secret until she could figure out what to do when the baby came. The kitchen smelled of coffee and bacon as Emma prepared breakfast, her stomach roiling with the familiar morning sickness that had become her constant companion. She gripped the counter, breathing slowly through her nose until the wave passed, then continued cracking eggs into the cast iron skillet. "Morning, Miss Clarke." The voice made her jump, and she turned to find Cole Matheson standing in the doorway, his hat in his hands. Cole was the newest boarder, a cowboy who had taken the 4th room just 5 days ago. He was tall and lean, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of whiskey that seemed to notice far too much. Emma guessed him to be around 25, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that made her nervous. "Mr. Matheson, you are early." She turned back to the stove, keeping her shawl tight around her middle. "Horses do not care about the clock," he said, moving into the room. "Need help with anything?" "I manage just fine, thank you." Her tone came out sharper than intended, but she could not afford kindness, could not afford connections. Kindness led to questions, and questions led to discovery. Cole nodded slowly, something like understanding flickering across his features. "Coffee ready," on the table. He poured himself a cup and sat at the worn wooden table, but Emma felt his gaze on her as she worked. The other boarders trickled in over the next 20 minutes. Old Pete, who worked at the stockyards and smelled perpetually of cattle. Young Billy, barely 19, who mucked stables and dreamed of becoming a gunslinger. And Raymond Cross, the merchant, who was pleasant enough but talked endlessly about his wife back in Chicago. Emma served the meal efficiently, deflecting attempts at conversation, and retreated to the kitchen as soon as possible. She had washing to do, rooms to clean, and a trip to the general store that she had been dreading. The store meant Mrs. Hadley, the shopkeeper's wife, whose eyes were sharp as a hawk's and whose tongue wagged faster than a rattlesnake's tail. By mid-morning, Emma had worked up the courage to make the trip. She wrapped a larger shawl around herself, though the temperature was already climbing toward uncomfortable, and walked the 3 blocks to Hadley's Mercantile. The bell above the door chimed her arrival, and sure enough, Mrs. Hadley's face appeared from behind a shelf of canned goods. "Miss Clarke." "How are you settling in, dear? Such a tragedy about your aunt. Martha was a good woman, even if she did keep to herself overmuch." Mrs. Hadley bustled forward, her round face creased with curiosity poorly disguised as concern. "I am well, thank you. I just need some supplies." Emma handed over her list, hoping for a quick transaction. "My, you are looking a bit peaked. Are you eating enough? You young girls always worrying about your figures." Mrs. Hadley's eyes traveled over Emma with uncomfortable intensity. "And wearing such heavy shawls in this heat." "You will make yourself ill." "I run cold," Emma lied, clutching the shawl tighter. Mrs. Hadley's expression suggested disbelief, but she began gathering the items. You know, running a boarding house alone is difficult work. Have you thought about finding a husband? There are plenty of good men in Abilene looking for wives. Take that Cole Matheson staying with you. I hear he is a decent fellow, works on the Patterson ranch. Not much money yet, but he is young and strong. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. I am not looking for a husband, Mrs. Hadley. I am quite content managing my aunt's business. Still, dear, a woman needs protection. These are rough times, rough men around. Mrs. Hadley packaged the supplies, her mouth never stopping. Just last week, there was a shooting at the saloon. And those trail drivers coming through, half of them drunk and looking for trouble. Emma paid quickly, gathered her parcels, and escaped before Mrs. Hadley could continue. The walk back felt longer, her burden heavier, both the physical weight of supplies and the invisible weight of her secret pressing down. She was breathing hard by the time she reached the boarding house, and she had to stop on the porch to catch her breath. Let me help with those. Emma nearly dropped everything. Cole had appeared from around the side of the house, and before she could protest, he had taken the heavier parcels from her arms. I said I manage fine, she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction because her hands were trembling. I am sure you do. Cole's voice was gentle, but there is no shame in accepting help when it is offered. He held the door open, and Emma had no choice but to enter. In the kitchen, Cole set the parcels on the table and turned to face her. His expression was serious, thoughtful, and Emma felt her heart begin to race. Miss Clarke, I want to say something, and I hope you will hear me out. Mr. Matheson, I have work to do. Emma. The use of her first name stopped her. I know you do not know me, and you have no reason to trust me. But I see you struggling, and I see you hiding something that is getting harder to hide. Emma's blood turned cold. I do not know what you mean. Cole took a step closer, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. I grew up with 4 sisters, I know the signs. The loose clothes getting looser, the way you grip the counter sometimes like you are fighting sickness, how you avoid being too close to anyone. Tears sprang to Emma's eyes and she turned away sharply. You need to leave. You need to find another place to stay. I am not going anywhere. His voice was firm but not unkind. And I am not here to judge you or cause you trouble. Then what do you want? The words came out as a broken whisper. I want you to know that you are not alone. Whatever happened, whatever situation you are in, you do not have to face it by yourself. Cole moved around to face her, and when Emma finally met his eyes, she saw only sincerity. I am here for you. Those 4 words broke something in Emma. The wall she had built so carefully around herself cracked, and a sob escaped before she could stop it. She pressed her hands to her face, ashamed of her weakness, terrified of the consequences of being discovered, and yet simultaneously relieved that someone finally knew, that someone was offering kindness instead of condemnation. Cole did not touch her, but he stood close enough that she could feel his solid presence. When I was 17, my oldest sister Mary found herself in a family way. The man was a drifter who moved on. Our pa wanted to throw her out, said she had shamed the family. But my ma would not have it, and neither would the rest of us. Mary had her baby, a little boy named James, and he is 6 now and the joy of all our lives. What I am saying is, I have seen how cruel people can be, but I have also seen that there is another way. Emma lowered her hands, wiping at her tears. Why are you being kind to me? You do not even know me. I know you are trying your best. I know you are scared, and I know what it is like to feel like you are facing the world alone. Cole's expression was earnest. My family lost our farm 2 years ago. Drought killed the crops and we could not pay the bank. We scattered to find work. I have been drifting from ranch to ranch, sending money back when I can. I understand what it means to have your life turned upside down through no real fault of your own. Emma studied his face, searching for any sign of deception or ulterior motive, but found none. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want to help if you will let me, even if that just means carrying your parcels and making sure you eat proper meals. A slight smile tugged at his mouth. You are terrible about feeding yourself, you know. You serve everyone else and then pick at scraps. Despite everything, Emma felt a small laugh bubble up. I have not had much appetite. Then we will work on that. Cole gestured to the table. Sit down. Let me make you some tea and we can talk or not talk, whatever you prefer. Emma sat, more from exhaustion than agreement. Cole moved through the kitchen with surprising competence, finding the kettle, the tea leaves, the cups. He worked quietly and Emma watched him, trying to understand this unexpected development. Men had never been kind to her without wanting something in return. Her father had been a hard man, quick with criticism and slow with affection. The man who had gotten her pregnant, Robert, had been charming and attentive right up until the moment she told him about the baby, and then he had called her careless, accused her of trying to trap him, and disappeared within a week. Here. Cole set a cup of tea in front of her, the steam rising in lazy curls. My ma always said hot tea could fix most problems, even when we knew it could not, but it helped anyway. Emma wrapped her hands around the cup, savoring the warmth. Where is your family now? Ma and my younger sisters are with my aunt in St. Louis. Pa went to work in the mines in Colorado. My brother Tom is up in Montana, last I heard. Mary and her boy are with Ma. Cole sat across from her with his own cup. We write when we can, but it is not the same as being together. You must miss them. Every day. He met her eyes over the table. But that is life sometimes. We do what we must to survive. They sat in silence for a while, and Emma found it was not uncomfortable. The tea did help, warming her from the inside, settling her stomach somewhat. Finally, she took a deep breath and spoke. His name was Robert. We were going to be married. At least, that is what he told me. The words came slowly at first, then faster. He worked at the bank in my town. He was educated, well-dressed, said all the right things. My parents had died the year before, influenza, and I was living with my older brother and his wife. They were not cruel, but I was a burden, another mouth to feed. When Robert started courting me, I thought it was my salvation. He said he loved me. He said we would have a beautiful life together. Cole listened without interrupting, his expression sympathetic. I believed him. I trusted him. And when he said we were as good as married already, that the ceremony was just a formality, I let him. Emma felt her cheeks burn. I was stupid and naive. You were trusting. That is not the same as stupid. When I told him about the baby, he changed instantly, said I was lying, trying to trap him, said it probably was not even his. Then he said I had been too free with my affections and it was my own fault. Emma's voice hardened. 2 days later, he was gone. The bank said he had taken a position in New York. My brother found out about my condition and gave me a week to leave his house. Said he would not harbor a fallen woman, that I had brought shame on the family. That is when I got the letter about my aunt passing and leaving me the boarding house. I came here hoping for a fresh start, hoping I could hide it long enough to figure out what to do. What do you want to do? Cole asked gently. I want to keep my baby. The fierceness in her voice surprised even herself. I know I should be ashamed, and I am, but I also want this child. It is mine, and I will love it, even if no one else does. I just do not know how to manage it alone. Once I start showing properly, people will talk. They might stop boarding here. I could lose everything. Cole was quiet for a moment, thinking, what if you did not have to do it alone? What do you mean? What if people thought you were married? He held up a hand before she could respond. I am not proposing anything improper, but if people believed you were a widow or that you had a husband away working, it would protect your reputation. The baby would have a name. Emma stared at him. Why would you do that? What could you possibly gain? A home. The answer was simple and honest. I am tired of drifting, Emma. I am tired of bunkhouses and temporary work and sending all my money away without building anything for myself. The Patterson Ranch is good work, steady, and the foreman said if I prove myself, there is a permanent position available. But it would be nice to have a real home to come back to, a place that is mine, ours. You want to marry me. We have known each other for less than a week. I want to help you. If that means marriage, then yes. Cole leaned forward, his gaze intense. I am not asking you to love me, Emma. I am offering a practical solution. You need protection and support. I need a home and a reason to put down roots. We could help each other. It was insane. It was reckless. It was also the only real option Emma could see. And what would you expect from me? Nothing you are not willing to give. I would not force myself on you if that is what you are asking. I would be a husband in name, a protector, a provider as best I can. The rest, if it ever comes, would be because we both wanted it, not because of any obligation. Emma's mind raced through the possibilities. If she did nothing, she would be exposed within a few months, maybe sooner. She would lose the boarding house, have no means of support, end up in a desperate situation with a newborn. But if she married Cole, even in name only, she would have protection, legitimacy, help with the work. The baby would have a father's name. It seemed too good to be true. You really expect nothing in return. I expect honesty between us. I expect us to treat each other with respect. I expect that we will work together to build something stable. Cole's voice was steady. I have seen enough of the world to know that love is not always where marriages start. Sometimes it is where they end up. And sometimes a partnership built on mutual respect is stronger than one built on fleeting passion. Emma thought about Robert, about the pretty words and empty promises. Cole was offering something entirely different, something real and tangible, not dressed up with romantic notions but grounded in practical reality. It should have felt cold, but instead it felt safe. When would we do this? As soon as you want. There is a circuit preacher due in town this Sunday. We could speak to him then. Cole reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. I know this is a lot to take in. Think about it. You do not have to decide right now. But Emma found her mind was already made up. Perhaps it was desperation, or perhaps it was the bone-deep exhaustion of trying to do everything alone, but when she looked at Cole, she felt something she had not felt in months, hope. Yes, Cole blinked. Yes, yes, I will marry you. Emma felt a strange calm settle over her. You are right. We can help each other, and you have been kinder to me in one morning than anyone has been in months. A slow smile spread across Cole's face, transforming it from handsome to something warmer and more open. Then I will speak to the preacher on Sunday. The next few days passed in a blur of strange normalcy. Cole told the other boarders that he and Miss Clarke had been secretly corresponding before her aunt's death, that they had planned to marry, and her inheritance had simply moved up the timeline. The story was believable enough, and the other men seemed happy for them, especially old Pete, who declared he had known there was something between them from the start, which was impossible but kind. Mrs. Hadley was harder to convince. She arrived at the boarding house on Saturday afternoon, ostensibly to bring a jar of preserves but really to interrogate Emma. This is all very sudden, Mrs. Hadley said, her eyes sharp as she examined the kitchen. You did not mention any understanding with Mr. Matheson when you were in my store. It was private, Emma said, keeping her voice level. We did not want to say anything until we were certain of our plans. That non-committal sound again, and you are certain now. You have known him, what, a week in person? We have been writing for 3 months, Emma lied. I know it seems fast, but when you know, Mrs. Hadley looked like she wanted to argue, but Cole chose that moment to enter, greeting the older woman with polite deference and just enough affection toward Emma to sell the story. He put his hand on Emma's shoulder, a gentle weight that felt protective rather than possessive. Miss Clarke has made me the happiest man in Kansas, Cole said, smiling down at Emma with such apparent warmth that she almost believed it herself. I know we are doing things a bit backwards, but I did not want to wait any longer to make her my wife. Mrs. Hadley's expression softened slightly. Well, I suppose if you are both certain, it will be nice for Emma to have a husband to help with the boarding house. It is too much work for a woman alone. They managed to usher Mrs. Hadley out with promises to invite her for dinner soon, and once she was gone, Emma sagged against the door. That woman is exhausting, Cole laughed. But convinced, I think, that is what matters. Sunday arrived bright and clear, the kind of perfect spring day that made Emma wish her wedding was real, that she was marrying for love instead of necessity. She wore her best dress, a green calico that her aunt had given her last Christmas, and that still fit reasonably well if she did not button the top all the way. Cole had bought a new shirt and had his only suit cleaned. He looked nervous when he arrived to escort her to the church, and Emma realized he was taking this seriously, that even though their marriage was one of convenience, he meant to honor it. The ceremony was brief, conducted in the small church with old Pete and Billy as witnesses. The preacher, a kind-faced man in his 50s, seemed pleased to perform the service and did not ask many questions. Emma spoke her vows in a clear voice, surprised to find she meant them, at least the parts about honor and respect. Cole's voice was steady when he promised to love and cherish her, and when he slipped a simple gold band on her finger, Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "You may kiss your bride," the preacher said, and for a moment Emma panicked. They had not discussed this. But Cole leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed his lips against hers so softly it was barely a kiss at all, just a whisper of contact that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Matheson," the preacher said, shaking Cole's hand and patting Emma's shoulder. "Mrs. Matheson." Emma Clarke was gone, transformed into someone new, someone with protection and possibilities. They walked back to the boarding house together, and Cole carried her over the threshold, which made Billy whoop and old Pete chuckle. That night, after a celebratory dinner that Emma could barely eat due to nerves, she and Cole stood awkwardly in her room, which was now their room. "I can sleep on the floor," Cole offered immediately. "Or in one of the empty rooms if you prefer." "No," Emma surprised herself with the firmness of her answer. "We are married, people will expect us to share a room, and I trust you." Cole nodded slowly. "I will just—" He gestured to the far side of the room and busied himself arranging his few belongings while Emma changed into her nightgown behind the privacy screen. When she emerged, Cole had already settled on top of the covers, fully clothed except for his boots. "You can get under the blankets," Emma said. "And you do not have to sleep in your clothes, I know you will not." She could not finish the sentence. "I am fine," Cole assured her, but his eyes were kind. "Sleep well, Emma." Emma slipped under the covers, acutely aware of the man lying beside her. But Cole stayed on his side, his breathing soon evening out into sleep, and gradually Emma relaxed. She placed her hand on her stomach, feeling the slight swell that would soon be impossible to hide, and felt a tear slide down her cheek, not from sadness but from relief. She was not alone anymore. The days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself settling into married life with an ease that surprised her. Cole was true to his word, helping around the boarding house before and after his work at the ranch. He fixed the loose step on the porch, repaired the pump in the kitchen, and took over the heavier chores without being asked. He was patient with her morning sickness, holding her hair back when she was ill, and never complaining about the nights she woke him accidentally. More than that, he talked to her. In the evenings, after the other boarders had retired, Cole and Emma would sit at the kitchen table and share stories of their lives. Cole spoke of his childhood on the farm, the pranks he and his siblings had played, the hard work of harvest season, the Christmas his father had surprised them with a fiddle and taught them all to dance. Emma shared memories of her parents, the happy times before their deaths, her mother's garden, her father's laugh. She told him about learning to bake bread, about the books she had loved to read, about the dreams she had harbored of traveling east to see the ocean. "We could do that someday," Cole said. "See the ocean." "With a baby?" Emma asked skeptically. "Why not? Babies travel, maybe not right away, but someday." Cole's eyes were serious. "Just because your life changed does not mean all your dreams have to die, Emma." It was those small moments of kindness and understanding that began to chip away at Emma's carefully guarded heart. She found herself watching for Cole's return from the ranch, listening for his footsteps. When he smiled at her, she felt warmth bloom in her chest. When he touched her hand in passing, she felt a spark of something she was afraid to name. The pregnancy progressed, and Emma could no longer hide it even with loose clothing. But now she was Mrs. Matheson, and people assumed the baby was Cole's. Mrs. Hadley made pointed comments about it being quick work, but she could not say anything truly scandalous. Other women in town began to treat Emma differently, including her in their conversations about children and family, offering advice and hand-me-down baby clothes. Cole treated Emma's pregnancy with tender care. He insisted she rest more, hired a girl named Sally to help with the heavy cleaning, and rubbed Emma's swollen feet in the evenings while they talked. He built a cradle with his own hands, working on it in the barn after his ranch work was done, sanding the wood until it was smooth as silk. "I want it perfect," he explained when Emma found him working late one night. "Your baby deserves the best." "Our baby," Emma corrected softly, and Cole's hands stilled on the wood. "Our baby, you are going to be its father in every way that matters." Emma stepped closer, placing her hand over his. "The man who will walk the floor at night when it cries, who will teach it to ride and read and be a good person. That makes you a father, Cole." Cole's eyes were suspiciously bright in the lamplight. "I will do my best by you both, I swear it. I know you will." Emma did not pull her hand away, and they stood there together, the cradle between them, something unspoken but powerful hanging in the air. It was later that week when everything changed between them. A summer storm rolled in fierce and fast, as they often did on the plains. Emma was closing windows when she slipped on the wet floor, crying out as she fell. Cole was there in an instant, catching her before she hit the ground, his arms strong and sure around her. "Are you hurt? Is the baby okay?" His voice was frantic with worry. "I am fine, we are fine." But Emma was shaking, from shock and from the sudden awareness of how close Cole was, how his arms felt around her, how his heart was racing against her side. She looked up and found his face inches from hers, his eyes dark with concern and something else, something that made her breath catch. "Emma?" Her name was a whisper, a question. She answered by closing the distance between them, pressing her lips to his. This was not the chaste brush of their wedding day. This was a real kiss, deep and urgent, months of building tension and denied attraction finally breaking free. Cole responded immediately, one hand cupping her face while the other stayed secure around her waist, holding her carefully as if she was something precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "I did not want to push," he said. "Did not want you to feel obligated." "I do not feel obligated. I feel—" Emma searched for the right word. "I feel like I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I have been halfway in love with you since the day I carried your parcels," Cole admitted. "Completely in love by the time you agreed to marry me. Every day since has just made it stronger." Emma felt tears on her cheeks, but they were happy tears. "I fought it. I was so afraid of being hurt again, but you are nothing like him, Cole. You are good and kind and real, and I love you." "I think I have for weeks, but was too scared to admit it." They kissed again, slower this time, a kiss that was a promise. That night when they went to bed, Emma curled into Cole's arms naturally, and he held her close, his hand resting gently on her swollen belly. "I felt it move," he breathed in wonder as the baby kicked against his palm. "Strong like its father," Emma said, and Cole's smile in the darkness was brilliant. The remaining months of Emma's pregnancy were the happiest of her life. She and Cole moved through their days as true partners, the love between them growing deeper and more certain. Cole attended her at doctor's visits, holding her hand through the examinations. They discussed names endlessly, finally settling on Samuel if it was a boy and Rose if it was a girl. Emma went into labor on a cold November evening, 3 days after her 23rd birthday. Cole rode for the doctor and then stayed by her side through the long night, letting her grip his hand hard enough to bruise, wiping her face with cool cloths, murmuring encouragement and love. "You are doing beautifully," he told her during a respite between pains. "You are so strong, Emma. I am in awe of you." "Tell me about the farm again," Emma gasped. Tell me about the apple tree. Cole understood she needed distraction, and he launched into a detailed description of the old apple tree behind his childhood home, how he and his siblings had built a fort in its branches, how the apples had been tart and perfect for pies, how he had carved his initials in the trunk when he was 10. "Someday we will have an apple tree," he promised, "and our children will play in it just like I did." The baby, a boy, arrived just before dawn. His first cry was lusty and strong, and Emma wept with relief and joy as the doctor placed him in her arms. "He is perfect," she breathed, examining the tiny fingers and toes, the shock of dark hair. "He is beautiful." Cole's voice was thick with emotion, just like his mother. "Samuel Cole Matheson," Emma said, looking up at her husband. "Do you approve? I am honored." Cole leaned down and kissed her forehead, then gently touched Samuel's cheek. "Welcome to the world, son." The weeks that followed were exhausting and wonderful. Samuel was a hungry baby, keeping Emma up at all hours, but Cole helped whenever he could, walking the floor with his son, singing old cowboy ballads in a surprisingly good voice, changing nappies without complaint. The other boarders were charmed by the baby, even gruff old Pete, who carved Samuel a set of wooden animals. When Samuel was 2 months old, Cole came home from the ranch with news. "The foreman is retiring," he announced. "The ranch owner asked if I wanted the position." "Cole, that is wonderful." Emma shifted Samuel to her other arm. "You deserve it." "It comes with a house," Cole continued. "A small one on the ranch property. I told them I needed to discuss it with my wife first." Emma understood what he was really asking. "You want to move, I want what is best for us." "The boarding house is good income, but it is also a lot of work, and with Samuel." Cole sat beside her. "As foreman, I will make enough to support us comfortably. You could focus on Samuel, maybe have time for yourself, and the house has land. We could have a garden, maybe some chickens. There is even room for an apple tree." Emma felt her heart swell. "You are offering me a dream." "I am offering you a home, a real home with just our family." Cole took her hand. "But if you want to keep the boarding house, we will make it work. I will not make decisions for you, Emma." Emma looked down at Samuel, sleeping peacefully in her arms, then at Cole, the man who had saved her when she had no hope, who had loved her when she felt unlovable, who had become everything she had never known she needed. "Let us build our home," she said, "together." They sold the boarding house to a couple from Missouri, good people who promised to keep it running well. The move to the ranch house happened in early spring, just before Samuel's first birthday. The house was small but sturdy, with 2 bedrooms, a cozy kitchen, and a porch that looked out over rolling grassland. Emma planted a garden immediately, and Cole brought home a dozen chickens and a milk cow named Bessie. True to his word, Cole planted an apple tree in the yard, a young sapling that he watered carefully. "It will be years before it bears fruit," he said, standing back to admire his work. "We have years," Emma replied, Samuel balanced on her hip. "We have all the time in the world." Life on the ranch suited them. Cole thrived in his new role as foreman, earning respect from the ranch hands and the owner alike. Emma discovered she loved ranch life, the space and freedom of it, the connection to the land. She made friends with the other ranch families, and their house became known for its welcoming hospitality and Emma's excellent cooking. Samuel grew into a sturdy, happy child with his mother's green eyes and his father's adventurous spirit. He took his first steps chasing after chickens and spoke his first word, "Papa," looking directly at Cole, who had to turn away to hide his emotional response. When Samuel was 2, Emma discovered she was pregnant again. Unlike the first time, this pregnancy was celebrated and shared. Cole was openly delighted, constantly talking to Emma's belly, predicting whether it would be a brother or sister for Samuel. "Another boy," he would say. "I can feel it." "A girl," Emma would counter, "just to prove you wrong." It was a girl born on a sunny June day with minimal fuss. They named her Rose Martha, after Emma's mother and aunt. Rose was smaller than Samuel had been, with wisps of auburn hair and a serious expression that made everyone laugh. Samuel was fascinated by his baby sister, wanting to help with everything, and Cole had to gently redirect his enthusiastic assistance. "Careful, son, she is little and delicate, like Mama," Samuel asked, and Emma laughed. "Your Mama is tougher than she looks," Cole said, winking at Emma. "But yes, we need to be gentle with small things." 3 years later, another boy arrived, Thomas, named for Cole's brother. Thomas was loud and demanding from the start, making his presence known, and the house rang with the chaos of 3 young children. Emma sometimes felt overwhelmed, but Cole was always there, a steady partner sharing the load. On quiet evenings after the children were asleep, Emma and Cole would sit on the porch and watch the sun set over the grassland. "You ever regret it?" Cole asked one such evening. "Marrying a stranger, taking a chance on me," Emma leaned against his shoulder. "Not for a single moment. You gave me everything, Cole, a home, a family, love. You saved me when I had lost all hope." "You saved me too," Cole said softly. "I was drifting, lost, going through the motions. You gave me purpose, a reason to build instead of just survive." He kissed the top of her head. "I thank God for that day I saw you struggling with those parcels, for the courage to speak up, for you saying yes." "I thank God for you noticing," Emma replied, "for you caring. For you being the kind of man who says I am here for you and means it." They sat in comfortable silence, the sounds of evening settling around them. A coyote called in the distance, and from the barn, one of the horses whinnied softly. Inside, Samuel called out in his sleep, and Emma started to rise, but Cole waved her back down. "I will check on him." Emma watched her husband disappear into the house and then turned her gaze to the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. She thought about the frightened girl she had been, hiding her pregnancy, certain her life was over. She thought about the cowboy who had seen through her disguise and offered help without judgment. She thought about the family they had built together, the love that had grown from the most unlikely beginning. The apple tree Cole had planted had grown tall and strong, and this year it had produced its first fruit, small and tart but perfect. Emma had made a pie, and they had all celebrated, Samuel declaring it the best pie in all of Kansas. Cole had caught her eye across the table, and they had shared a smile full of private meaning, remembering that first conversation about the apple tree behind his childhood home, remembering his promise of someday. Someday had become now. Dreams had become reality. And the scared, desperate woman who had arrived in Abilene 7 years ago was now happy, loved, and whole. Cole returned to the porch. "He was fine, just a dream. I tucked him back in." "You are a good father," Emma said. "The best father. I learned from watching you be a mother." Cole settled back into his chair and reached for her hand. "We make a good team. The best team." They sat together as night fell fully, the stars wheeling overhead in their ancient dance. From inside came the soft sounds of their children sleeping. Around them was the home they had built together, the life they had created from nothing but hope and determination and love. "Tell me something," Emma said. "That first day when you said you were here for me, did you have any idea where it would lead?" Cole considered the question. "Honestly, no. I just knew you needed help and I could not walk away. Everything else we figured out as we went." "We did not we?" Emma squeezed his hand. "We built something beautiful from such a difficult beginning." "We did it together," Cole corrected. "That is the important part. Not where we started, but how we traveled the road." Emma thought about all the roads she had traveled to get to this moment, the road of shame and fear that had brought her to Abilene, the road of desperate hope that had led her to accept Cole's proposal, the road of growing trust and affection that had turned a marriage of convenience into real love, the road of partnership and family that had brought her here, to this porch, with this man, surrounded by the evidence of the life they had created together. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you more than I ever thought possible." "I love you too," Cole replied. "Every day more than the last." They remained on the porch until the night air grew too cool, then went inside together, checking on each sleeping child before retiring to their own room. In the darkness, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma felt a peace and contentment that once would have seemed impossible. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect summer day. The children woke early as they always did, and the house filled with noise and laughter. Emma made breakfast while Cole helped Samuel get dressed and changed Rose and Thomas. It was the kind of ordinary morning that was actually extraordinary, made precious by the love that infused every moment. After breakfast, Cole headed out to work, kissing Emma and each child goodbye. "I will be home for supper," he promised, as he always did. "We will be here," Emma replied, as she always did. Samuel tugged on her skirt. "Can we pick apples today, Mama?" "The apples are not quite ripe yet, sweetheart. A few more weeks." "I want to climb the tree like Papa did when he was little," Samuel said, his eyes bright with excitement. "When you are bigger," Emma promised. "But we can go look at it if you want." They spent the morning in the garden, Samuel helping weed while Rose toddled around and Thomas napped in a basket under the shade of the apple tree. Emma worked the soil, planting late summer vegetables, and felt profoundly grateful for the simplicity and fullness of this life. Mrs. Hadley came to visit in the afternoon, as she did occasionally. The older woman had softened over the years, and she and Emma had developed an unlikely friendship. "My goodness, these children grow like weeds," Mrs. Hadley declared, admiring each one. "You and Cole have made a beautiful family, Emma." "Thank you." Emma poured tea for them both. "We have been very blessed." "I will admit I had my doubts about you two at first," Mrs. Hadley said. "Everything was so rushed, but I can see now that it was meant to be. Some people are just destined for each other, even if they take an unconventional path to find one another." Emma smiled, thinking about just how unconventional their path had been. If Mrs. Hadley knew the truth about Samuel's parentage, she had never said anything, and at this point it did not matter. Samuel was Cole's son in every way that counted. He had Cole's mannerisms, his gentle confidence, his kind heart. Blood was only one way to make a family, Emma had learned. Love was the stronger bond. The years continued to pass in a rhythm of seasons and growth. The children thrived, each developing their own personalities and interests. Samuel became an excellent rider, often accompanying Cole around the ranch. Rose was bookish and thoughtful, reminding Emma of herself at that age. Thomas was mischievous and charming, able to talk his way out of trouble with a winning smile. Cole was promoted to ranch manager when the owner's son took over the operation, and their financial security became even more solid. They expanded the house, adding 2 more bedrooms and a proper dining room. Emma started a small business making preserves and baked goods to sell in town, more for the satisfaction than the money, though it provided a nice income. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Cole surprised Emma with a trip to San Francisco. Emma's parents took care of the children for 2 weeks, and Emma and Cole traveled west, seeing the ocean for the first time together. Standing on the beach, the Pacific stretching endlessly before them, Emma felt tears on her cheeks. "Why are you crying?" Cole asked, concerned. "I am happy," Emma said, laughing through her tears. "I am so very happy. When I was hiding my pregnancy, terrified and alone, I never imagined this. I never imagined love and family and traveling to see the ocean. I never imagined you." Cole pulled her close. "I am glad I noticed," he said, echoing their long-ago conversation. "I am glad I spoke up. I am glad I listened." They kissed there on the beach, the waves crashing around them, a perfect moment in a life full of them. When they returned home, Samuel was 9 and asked when he could start working on the ranch like Papa. "Soon," Cole promised, "but finish your schooling first." "A man needs education as well as skills." "Did you finish school?" Samuel challenged. "I did, and I wish I had done more," Cole said honestly. "I want better opportunities for you than I had. That means education." Samuel grumbled but accepted the decree. That night, Cole confided in Emma his hopes that their children would have chances he never did, that they might go to college, see the world, choose their own paths. "They will," Emma assured him. We are giving them a foundation of love and stability. They can build anything on that. Years turned into decades. The children grew up and made their own choices. Samuel did go to college, studying agriculture, and returned to manage a large ranch. Rose became a teacher, marrying a kind man she met in Kansas City. Thomas, true to his adventurous nature, joined the railroad and traveled extensively before settling down. Cole and Emma became grandparents, delighting in the next generation. They grew older together, their love deepening with each passing year. The apple tree grew massive, its branches spreading wide, providing shade for grandchildren to play beneath, just as Cole had once imagined. On their 40th wedding anniversary, their children and grandchildren gathered for a celebration. There were dozens of people filling the house and yard, all connected by the love that Emma and Cole had built from the most unlikely beginning. "Tell the story, Grandma," one of the grandchildren begged. "Tell how you and Grandpa met." Emma looked at Cole, her hair now silver, his face lined with age and experience, and she smiled. They had agreed years ago on the story they would tell, one that was true in all the ways that mattered. "Your grandfather saved me," Emma said simply. "I was alone and frightened, and he said the most important words anyone has ever spoken to me. He said, 'I am here for you,' and he has been every day since." "That is a good story," the child said, satisfied. "It is the best story," Cole agreed, reaching for Emma's hand, "because it is ours." As the party continued around them, Emma and Cole slipped away to their porch, the place where they had spent countless evenings over the decades. The apple tree rustled in the breeze, heavy with fruit. The grasslands stretched golden in the evening light. Inside, their family laughed and celebrated the love that had created them all. "No regrets?" Cole asked, the same question he had asked so many times over the years. "Not a single one," Emma replied, the same answer she always gave and always meant. "You gave me everything, Cole. You gave me a life worth living." "You gave me the same," Cole said. "I was just drifting until I found you. You made me want to build, to grow, to be better than I was." They sat together as the sun set, hands clasped, hearts intertwined. Two people who had found each other when they both needed saving and had spent 40 years proving that sometimes the best love stories start with a simple offer of help, a moment of kindness that changes everything. The stars emerged one by one, the same stars that had watched over them all these years, bearing witness to the miracle of two broken people becoming whole together, of a marriage of convenience becoming a union of souls, of a frightened woman and a kind cowboy building a legacy of love that would echo through generations. Emma rested her head on Cole's shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and knew with absolute certainty that every hard moment of her life had been worth it to lead her here, to this man, to this life, to this perfect, impossible happiness. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Cole replied, "always and forever." And as the night deepened around them, Emma and Cole Matheson sat together on their porch, surrounded by the evidence of a life well lived and a love well earned, grateful beyond measure for that long-ago day when a cowboy noticed a woman struggling, offered his help, and changed both their destinies forever.